Jane, let's do this. Law number one is the law of intentionality. So if you are trying to grow in your life, if you are trying to grow in your recovery process, if you're trying to grow with your mental health, with your addiction, if you're trying to improve all of those conditions, you have to be, you must be, it's a law. You have to be intentional with it. So it's called the law of intentionality. And what that means is just because you're a good person, just because you're watching this talk, just because you've treated your loved one with love and respect, does not mean that you're personally going to grow. You have to be deliberate with it. You have to be intentional with your growth. You have to say, okay, how am I going to improve today versus yesterday? What am I going to do next week to improve from the week before? How am I going to look at my life emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, so I can grow? You have to be intentional with it. With just the passing of the calendar, just with the passing of days and the weeks going by and the months going by. I mean, look at it this way. We are right now getting ready to go into the month of March, right? The month of March. That means 2 out of the 12 months of the year are gone. 2 out of the 12 are gone. We're talking about somewhere about close to 20% of the year on some level could be gone, right? And if you are not intentional with your growth, I promise you this, that you have not come far from December 31st. As a matter of fact, it's safe to argue that maybe it's looked the same. So the law of intentionality, if you're into the recovery process, you have to be intentional with your recovery. Like I said, just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're going to start recovering. You know how many good human beings, whether they're dealing with the addiction of their loved one or they're addicted to drugs and alcohol like I used to be almost 13 years ago, or all of our program participants, they're really good human beings that come through the recovery process, and that's just not enough. Just being a good person doesn't mean that we recover. It's being intentional, being deliberate with it. And the next one, this one for me, I think out of all of them, is probably the most important, okay? And it's called the law of reflection. The law of reflection. So some people say, well, I'm older, or I've been there, I've done that. I have experience, right? With something, with mental health, with addiction, I have experience. Well, I'll tell you this, experience alone doesn't get anyone anywhere. Experience alone doesn't change our behavior. How many of you did the same thing 1,000 times thinking that it was going to be different? Doing the same thing expecting different results, as many of you know, is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over, repeatedly over time, thinking that one day it's going to be different, is the definition of insanity, right? So experience doesn't change things. If it did, that person who goes through something a bunch of times will eventually say, well, I have my experience and now I'm going to change. So what does change things is the law of reflection. Reflected experience changes behavior. So when you go through an experience, at the end of that process, you must. And by the way, if you're new and you're saying, why is he talking so deliberately, and why is he talking with so much intention, and why is he talking so directly to us, is because people need to hear these things when it comes to their mental health, when it comes to their addiction, when it comes to their loved one, when it comes to their own overall health, because society doesn't say these things to us. Society doesn't reinforce these important messages. So you have to be, so if you're going through something, what is the law of reflection is you have to schedule, you must schedule time for yourself to sit down and reflect upon your day, reflect upon your experience. So in the program, for those of you who work a program, I know a lot of you family members also do, as a part of, like, let's say the 12-step program, on the 10th step, there is this part that talks about we constructively review our day. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid today? Did I harm someone? Do I owe an apology? What could I have done differently? This is something that the program of 12-step programs not only suggests, it's a part of the program for all program participants. So if you're here watching this, I strongly urge and suggest that you look into those 12-step programs for your mental health or your addiction, or the mental health or addiction of your loved one, Because in that program, the law of reflection shows up in the 10th step. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid today? Because if you go through an entire day and you don't pause to constructively review your day, that experience you had that day doesn't mean anything. Guess what happens? It goes back. And by the way, I just want you to know, Jim that just responded every day, this is someone that he's not joking about this. So I've had the privilege of working with him for over 5 years right now, or close to, actually, yeah, 5 years. And every single day he shows up the same way, consistent. And you want to know when someone shows up consistent in the daytime, I promise you the recipe isn't the daytime. It's what they've done the night before to set themselves up for the next day. So when that human being is consistent at night, there's a better chance that they're going to be consistent in the daytime. And he works a 12-step program with himself and with a bunch of other people in the sober community. He's very big in the sober recovery community. So yes, I do know you do it every day, Jim, and thank you, because the law of reflection is a law for every one of us to know. And I've also gone as far as telling people this. At the end of every day, make sure that you carve out, schedule a few minutes to reflect on your day. Now check this out. At the end of every week, make sure you carve out an hour or two, maybe on a Sunday, to reflect back on your entire week. At the end of the month, make sure you block out a half a day to reflect back on your entire month as you plan for the month ahead. And at the end of every year, and this is something you know I've done, you carve out an entire weekend, a Saturday, a Sunday, a few days, and you reflect back on your entire year. Because experience alone doesn't change anything in life, my friends. Reflected experience does. So if you don't sit back and reflect on it, absolutely, Pej, personal inventory, you do it every damn day too. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid today? Do I owe an apology to anyone? If the answer is yes, do it, because if you don't, it will repeat itself. And by the way, I'm not standing here from any high horse talking about this stuff. I've gone through so much pain in the recovery process, a lot of it self-inflicted, a lot of it that I caused, and I had to work through that to be the person standing in front of here talking to you guys right now. And that's why I do these talks, because we can all transform who we are, what we do, how we live, how we engage, how we interact with the recovery process. So the law of reflection was number 2. The next law that I have is the law of consistency. You will change when you do something daily. If there's something in your life that you need to change, the solution comes from daily discipline and daily action consistently. Here's a great quote for you. People overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a week or a month. People overestimate what they can do in a day or a week and underestimate what they can do in a week, in a month, or a year. How about that? You know, one of the things that they tell people is to, when you get clean and sober, so not just for the drug addict, alcoholic, or the human being experiencing addictions, as you know I like to call them, but for the family members. When you get into the recovery process, what you need to do is this. You need to write down a bunch of things that you want to happen for yourself by the end of the year. Not the end of the week or the month or 30 days, by the end of the year. Who do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish? What goals do you have for yourself emotionally, spiritually, like Hossein talked about over there? All those different realms. What goals do you have? And check this out. By the end of the year, it's a well-known fact that most people in the recovery process, when they get there, if they get there, they shortchange themselves, because people overestimate what they can do in a day or a week and underestimate what they can do in a month or a year. Right? So the law of consistency says doing something on a daily basis builds this thing called discipline. Discipline builds this thing called momentum. Momentum builds this thing called change. A person that has momentum is powerful. A person that has momentum can break through walls. You know, John Maxwell also teaches this analogy. Please take this with yourself because it's wonderful. He says a train can be going 50 miles an hour down the train tracks. And if it goes and comes across a 5-foot reinforced wall, the train's going to have enough momentum to just break through that wall, right? Just shatter it through and continue going. However, if the train is completely stopped and at a standstill, and you put a 1-foot reinforced wall in front of it, the train does not have the ability to go through that wall. Momentum is what takes us through obstacles, through challenges. And when is momentum created? Daily. Daily discipline, repeated over time, creates momentum. And that's why the law of consistency is so important. Some people in the recovery process, they do good for the first 30 days and all of a sudden they put their foot off the gas and they're wondering why their life's not changing. Did you do it consistently over time? The law of consistency also comes to play with the trust building process. A lot of you have really damaged relationship because of addiction with your loved one and with yourself. Right? By the way, you could really screw up your relationship with yourself. If you continuously tell yourself that you're going to do something and you don't do it, so you tell yourself you're going to set a boundary and you don't do it. You tell yourself that you're going to stop being a certain type of emotion, stop being angry, and you keep blowing up. Eventually you stop to trust yourself, by the way. I hope you know that. So the formula for trust, this is a side note, bonus added value. The formula for trust is this: committed and consistent actions over time. That's what it is. If you're trying to build trust with yourself or build with someone else, or if you want someone else to build trust with you, you have to watch their actions. Are they committed? Are they consistent? And have they done them over time? That's the formula. There's nothing else. You can't tell me there's any other formula for building trust, because I believe that's it. And if you're watching this, I know there's a few people on right now. I appreciate it. And some of the things I'm saying, it comes from passion and this and that, but it also does come from professional experience. I do have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and I am a licensed addictions counselor. So please keep that in mind before you think I'm just some random guy rambling in his living room. The next one that I have is the law of the environment. Now this one's huge. People, human beings, we are shaped in a moment by moment by moment by moment interaction with our environment. The same way, watching this right now, engaging, interacting with the people on the sidebar, listening to me talk, is having your mind think about recovery, thinking about transformation, thinking about growth. You're feeling a little bit better about your situation, your mental health, your addiction, because of what we're exposed to. The environment is helping shape that. Now, the wrong environment, with the wrong people, with toxic people, draining your energy, draining your vitality, with people telling you what you can't do, what you don't need to do, what you shouldn't do, people just constantly negative, critical, all that kind of stuff. How does that environment impact you? How does that environment make you feel? So the law of the environment is very important. I tell people, show me who you spend your time with. Show me what you do when no one's watching. Show me where you go when you have the freedom to go places. And I will tell you what kind of life you have. Because an individual that's not exposed to things that light them up, things that fuel them, things that energize them, someone that's not exposed to that is not going to feel that. Some people have it internally, don't get me wrong. There's some people that wake up and they are able to ignite that within themselves. However, there's this hot poker principle. So we all know those, those hot pokers that we go and make s'mores with. And s'mores, if you don't know what it is you grab a piece of marshmallow and you put it over a flame. And once it gets really, really hot, you grab the marshmallow and you put it with the graham crackers and the chocolate, and then you can eat it. Well, that poker, right, the hot poker principle, the only way a poker gets hot is if you actually put it around flames. If you put it around a hot environment, and then it's hot. Human beings oftentimes are the same way. Unless you expose yourself to people, places, and things that warm you up, that heat you up, it's very, very challenging to be able to get that. So the law of the environment is very important, my friends. This one I actually used teaching 3 months ago. So if you were watching this 3 months ago, this one specific example was from there. And I'm going to say it again because it is a law. Back then we didn't call it a law, but this is called the law of design. Okay? So when you think about your personal recovery, when you think about your personal health, mind, body, spirit, right? All of it. Have you sat down and taken time to design what you want it to look like? Have you designed it? I'm talking about all of the details and all the intricate details of what you want it to look like, what you want it to feel like, how you want to experience it. Have you sat down and designed it? If the answer is no, I'll give you a perfect example of what I see is happening. So I'm standing inside this building right now, right? This happens to be my apartment where I live. Before this building became this building, okay, before this building became this building, long before the construction ever happened, long before they even, grabbed a shovel and broke dirt, there was some man or woman sitting inside some office somewhere designing this place with a piece of pen and with a paper and a piece of pen. They were drawing all of the details of the structures, the lines, the angles. It's called a blueprint. This building had a blueprint that was completed before this building was started. Do you have a blueprint for your life? Do you have a blueprint for your recovery? Do you have a blueprint for your mental health, for your addiction? Before you get up and just get into action, before you get up and just start doing things in life, have you sat down to actually design what you want it to look like? How you want to experience it? Because a person that doesn't do that, they get frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious when what they're seeing and experiencing isn't what they imagined. Because something that's just imagined in the mind that doesn't get translated onto something concrete is just a wish. Nothing happens with wishes. Children wish. Kids wish. Adults imagine things, they visualize things, then they put pen to paper and they create those things, right? They create them with action plans, with steps, goal-oriented, tangible. Where am I going? How am I going to get there? That's what adults do. And have you done that with your personal recovery? And some people might say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about here because life isn't like that. You can't imagine something in life or create a blueprint because shit hits the fan. Stuff happens. What are you going to do when it happens? Well, don't you think stuff happens in construction? When someone draws a blueprint for a building and one day they're out there building or the electrician comes in this and that, there are 1,000 things that go wrong. My brother actually is a contractor. He builds buildings. And if I ask him, hey, how many things went wrong today in your neck of the woods? He'll say, dude, too many to even talk about, right? But the blueprint for the houses they built was already developed long before they started the construction. And just like building, life is the same way. In your personal recovery, when you come across obstacles, challenges, barriers, when you put the shovel in the ground and it hits something you didn't think was there, or the electrician tries to wire something and unfortunately they can't do it, what do? They adjust. They adapt. They remain flexible, coachable, teachable. They practice humility. So I want you, when you get off this talk, go back and say, wait a second, man, this guy's got a point. And by the way, I always got a point, right? It's a little humble brag, if you will, but there's always a point to these things. I want you to think about your blueprint of your recovery. Not just your loved one's recovery. Some of you are such architects of like your kid's recovery program. Focus on your own, or your spouses, or your loved ones. Focus on your own. Focus on your own. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Focus on your own recovery and your own blueprint. What do you want to build, man? What does your dream house of recovery look like? Just imagine it. And then what you do is you work to develop it the same way this building was created. So, and there's another quote here that I love is, if you have no plan in life, so if you haven't put a plan together in life, guess what? That means by default, you've given your life to someone else to build that plan for you. And I'm not talking about a spiritual, higher power, God thing over here. I'm just talking about human to human conversation. If as a human being, you haven't created a plan for your life, that means you've given another human being the ability to plan for you, right? What you're going to do, where you're going to do, how you're going to live, all that kind of stuff like that. That's just the way it works. And guess what? That person has planned for you. Not much. Not much. Other people don't have as much plan for us as we think they do, right? If we don't plan for our lives and we're just waiting around hoping other people do things for us or hoping they do things, it's going to be a long road, my friends. And by the way, that's not this people are selfish talk that I'm going through, but guess what? People are selfish. Because let's take me for example, because I know a lot of you have a very positive point of view or point of reference to me. I do these talks for an hour, every Saturday. I've been doing them for a long time. And I'm passionate. I'm here with you. I'm connected to you. I'm fully engaged and invested. But guess what? When I get off this talk, when I close my computer and I walk away, I'm starting to think of something, and that's myself. I'll start thinking about my wife, my life, my company. I'll start thinking about my pets. I'll start thinking about basketball. I'll start thinking about the pandemic. I'll start thinking about my finances. I'll start thinking about my fitness routine. I'll start thinking about my diet. And guess what? When I'm thinking about myself all of those times, guess what I'm not thinking about? You. And guess what? You do the same thing too. And guess what? 8 billion people do the same thing. Everybody goes around life thinking about one thing, and that's themselves. And you might say, well, no, actually, I think about my loved one or my kid all the time. I promise you, that's just almost like a drug. Oh, for a lot of you family members, your loved one is a drug. All you do is you think about them, and guess what you don't think about when you're thinking about them? You. And guess what drug addicts, alcoholics do when they use their drugs? They do that so they don't have to think about them, right? This is real talk right here. So the law of design, take it, and yes, be in control of your own life, please. I love all the comments today, by the way. You guys, I could tell you've been listening to me for a while because you wouldn't have these ability to say these things, 6, 9, 10 months ago. I promise you this. I've known some of you a little bit, and you've come a long way. All of you that are watching this, you've come a really long way. The next one is the law of pain. So this one's kind of like, oh. So in order to grow in life, we must experience some type of a pain. Now, I know that sounds a little dark or some grim or anything like that, but pain is a part of life. The same way pleasure is a part of life. You can't just selectively want pleasure. If you choose pleasure, that means by default, you're accepting pain into your life, right? It's the same coin, just different sides. They say human beings are motivated by one or two things: the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. We're always in the pursuit of pleasure, or we're doing whatever we can to avoid pain. So pain is a part of life. Okay, and that's okay because pain also carries with it some great gifts, right? Pain has some great gifts in it. So no pain, no gain. I'm telling you this. No pain, no gain. Look at that. We're exactly on cue right there. If someone was wondering if me and Jane did that in sync, yes, we did. And yes, Jane, pain is a great motivator. So pain, this is another quote, I believe it's by someone that, I don't know who it's actually attributed to, but pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You might go through something that causes some psychological, emotional, physical pain. But when you heal and recover from that, you learn from it, you grow from that, it's a beautiful experience. Human beings that can go through pain and they don't heal from it, they don't recover from it, guess what they start to experience? They start to experience psychological, emotional, physical suffering. And I know this sounds harsh for you to hear if that's what you're going through. That suffering is on you because we don't need to suffer when we have the ability to connect, when we have resources, when we have support. Now, there was times in my life that I actually did suffer, and a lot of you did suffer when you don't know what to do. When you don't know how to get help, when you don't know where to go, when you don't know how to process your emotions, man, there's a lot of suffering in that. And that's why I'm so committed to these groups, is because I know there's someone that one day is going to watch one of these things and they're going to say, oh my gosh, this guy gets it. I'm going through the darkest, hardest, most difficult time of my life. I'm really suffering. But then at that point, they realize that there is a solution. 12-step programs are a solution. Therapy, counseling, IOPs, rehabs, treatments, there are solutions in these places. Health, focusing on your health could be a solution, focusing on your mental health. So, they say the good management of bad experiences leads to growth. So pain can be evolutionary. Absolutely. You guys are all right about this stuff. It's, and thank you. It was hard to put myself first. Thank you. These comments really mean a lot to me. I know some of you have been here for a long time, but for a fact, so there's a mom there that, and she actually reached out to me a long time ago, maybe like when I first started doing these, saying, hey, I'm just so concerned. I'm so worried. I can't stop thinking about my kid. What if this happens again? What if that happens again? And I said, hey, all you got to do is just focus on yourself. And they're like, at first like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But if you put yourself first, you start to develop psychological, emotional muscles that when life hits the fan, when shit hits the fan, because it always does, right? How many of you have been able to predict your life up until this point? None of you, including myself. Nobody can predict anything. So if life is unpredictable, what can we do as responsible adults, responsible human beings to be best prepared for that in the recovery process is to take care of ourselves, to be the healthiest version of ourselves that we can be. So when it does happen, not if it happens, when it happens, we can handle it and manage it and go through it. So the next one that I have is the law of the rubber band. And by the way, if you're watching this, these are not directly my laws. These laws are pulled from and adapted from a really wonderful book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It's by Dr. John Maxwell. He uses that book to teach leaders and motivate human beings on a personal development level, macro organizational level. I pulled the stuff that I feel was applicable to the recovery process. So I changed the laws of growth, hopefully with the permission of John Maxwell. You know, he does say that he loves hearing his own stuff back in different places because he gives it to people so they can give it away and make an impact in the world. So if I don't know, I think you'll probably never hear this, Mr. John Maxwell, but thank you for the contribution you've made, at least in my life and probably 10 million other people's. So the law of the rubber band tells this, and apply this to your recovery process again. A rubber band is useless, right? Think of a rubber band right now. Visualize a rubber band. That piece is useless unless it is stretched, right? So if you grab a rubber band and just hold on to it, you can't do anything with it. But if you grab a rubber band and grab a bundle of pencils and wrap it around and then stretch it and wrap it around and stretch it, or if I grab a rubber band and grab my hair, you know, left to its own devices, this thing, let's see, this thing is useless, my friends, right? Useless. However, if I put my hair in it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it, it becomes tight. So we are like rubber bands. Unless we stretch ourselves, unless we stretch like a rubber band, we're useless. So you got to look at it this way. In your life and in your recovery, are you doing things that make you feel like you're stretching? Are you forcing yourself to stretch? Are you putting yourself in situations that you must stretch? And where does stretching happen, by the way? It's not just stretching the physical limbs of the body, but that's a good thing to do. Are you stretching your mind? Are you stretching your thoughts? Are you stretching your feelings to be able to grow? The law of the rubber band says, unless you stretch, you won't grow. You're of no use, right? I'm not saying no use in like a, you're no use as a human being. I mean like in terms of the growth and the recovery process. Always keep some tension in your life. If you're going through the motions of life and everything's coming off so easy, I'm telling you, you're not doing something right. We must have some tension in our life. We must have a little friction in our life because that tension, that friction is what allows us to grow as human beings. If you're 30 days sober and you're like, this is a breeze, this is too easy, I'm telling you, you're not doing something right. If you're a family member and you're 90 days into this process and you're like, oh, I'm fine now, I'm good now, this is easy. No, it's not, because if you just rewind the tape 90 days before that, you couldn't sleep. If you go back a year before that, you had to lie to everyone in your life about what was happening in your life with your kid's addiction. If you go back 2 years before that, maybe you had to resuscitate your son or daughter from an overdose. If you go back 3 years before that, maybe you had to drive him or her after they got arrested the night before and wonder what the heck you're going to do. If you rewind a little bit before that, maybe you went through some challenges. Maybe your parents passed away. Maybe you went through some marital discord, divorce, abuse. Maybe you rewind the tape a few years before that. You were a child coming up, and in case of a lot of our countries, the Iranians watching this, maybe there was revolution in your life and you had to leave your home and your country. Maybe if you go a few years before that, maybe you experienced someone passing away at a young age, right? Are these things that happen to you, my friends? Probably. So if you're 30, 60, 90 days into this process and everything's easy for you, you feel fine, you're not doing it right. You're not stretching your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings to find out, oh my gosh, getting into the recovery process is like getting out of a car accident, right? Starting the recovery process is like getting out of a car that just rolled and tumbled and just destroyed itself 10,000 times. And you get up and you should have a little bit of a concussion at the minimum. But then you got to start working, because it's not just about the addiction process. It's about everything that goes through the addiction process. So that's the law of the rubber band. The law of trade-offs, I like this one because I'm all about this. The law of trade-offs says this. It says you must be willing to sacrifice something in order to get something. Right? You must be willing to sacrifice something. So are you willing to sacrifice who and what you are for who and what you want to be? Are you willing to sacrifice who and what you've gone through for the things that you want to go through? Right? You've heard me say this, that your new life is going to cost you your old life. So this is a good example. This is a 1 hour sacrifice, we'll call it, that it's Saturday. Most people work hard all week, whether they're working from home or working outside or somewhere in between. And they say, I'm just going to chill and relax on a Saturday. And maybe they just go and there's this newest show on Netflix that is #2 trending, and they know it's going to take about 8 hours of their day, and they put it on at noon and 8 o'clock at night after a couple, maybe after a pizza and some ice cream. They completed the binge, and maybe that's what they choose to do today. And guess what? If that's what you choose to do today with your life, that's okay too. But there are some people right here watching this, taking an hour out of their Saturday to get a little uncomfortable, to hear things that they might not want to be hearing right now, but because they're committed to growth. They're giving up an hour on a Saturday to gain something in return, right? To gain something in return. So what are you willing to sacrifice? And like I said, your new life is going to cost you your old life. It's all about sacrifice. If you had a certain relationship with drugs and alcohol, whether it was yourself or your loved ones, and moving forward, you got to create a new identity. And by the way, this one's really good. A lot of family members, your identity is wrapped up in your addiction of your loved one. Your identity is wrapped up in the addiction of your loved one. What do I mean by that is you've put out the fire so many times. You've been the hero. You've been the rescuer. You've been the friend. You've been the enabler for so many years that it's become a part of you. So when he or she gets clean and sober and you don't have the ability to do those things anymore, you're going to go through an identity crisis. And that's on twofold. It's a double-edged sword. On one side of the token, you're going to not know what to do with yourself. On the other side of the token, you're not going to know what to do with yourself. So it's a vast opportunity for you to be able to actually, for the first time, create the identity you want that's separate of the enabler, rescuer, codependent, the hero that you were in the past. And guess what? When you do that, it allows your loved one to create a new identity for themselves. Because as long as you don't change, they don't need to change. They'll be the addict, you'll be the enabler. They'll make mistakes, you'll come and save them, right? They'll stay an adult child, you'll have an adult child. So when you do change, when you say, I want to create an identity for myself, I want to be me after all these years, guess what? They're going to have to be them. And if they don't know who that is, just like you, they are going to find them the same way you're going to find you. It's the whole thing. I mean, here's the thing, by the way. People that aren't in recovery right now, not even addiction in their life, which I disagree that could potentially happen, because this day and age, we're all addicted to something that takes away the pain. But people go through identity crises all the time. So being in addiction, being in recovery, we're kind of forced into it. It's a beautiful thing because sometimes we need that push, law of the environment. But that's a good one to cover right there. And there's a few left. Actually, there's 2 left and some final ramble. So the next one, it says the law of modeling. Okay, so what is the law of modeling? In his book, it says to find a mentor. In our world, what would that be? Find a sponsor. So modeling means if you get in the recovery process and you have no idea what you're doing, please don't just start doing things on your own, right? So imagine you go to IKEA or something, and you go buy yourself a big cabinet that has a bunch of sliding doors and a bunch of drawers, and it has, just way too many compartments. And you come and you put it in your living room, and you just say, let me find the wrench that it comes with, and let me find the screwdriver, and I'm going to have at it, right? You just put the instruction manual away and just throw it away in a little drawer somewhere. And you say, I'm just going to do it. Now, if you're one of those handy people and you're really good with tools and you get it, this example won't apply to you, but just imagine someone in your life that's horrible with screwdrivers and doesn't even know what the hell an Allen wrench is or anything like that. And if you can't visualize that person right here, right? A screwdriver is a foreign object in my hand. I don't know how to use them. So you can use me as a scapegoat. If I had to sit down with an IKEA piece of furniture and put it together without an instruction manual, I would get into a lot of anger, frustration. The people around me will leave me and tell me that they will not come back until this thing's completely done. I get frustrated. I don't know what I'm doing. It'll come out, if it's supposed to be like a shelf or anything like that, it'll come out looking like a bed without a headboard or something like that. Okay. So what does the instruction manual do is it provides you step-by-step guidance on how to build something. If you're new in the recovery process and you just know that you got out of this car accident that is called addiction and now you're barely getting up, don't just start to try to get better on your own. Find someone, a mentor as he calls it, a sponsor as we call it, to call them on a daily basis. That's what they're for. It's free of charge and they want nothing more to do than to help you. Why is that the case? Because they were in your shoes a long time ago sometimes. They know what it's like to get out of a car accident, which is addiction, and not know what to do, not know which way is up or down or left or right. So you need to find someone who knows the way, shows the way, and also they go the way, right? That's what a real mentor, that's what a real sponsor is. Someone that knows how to get to where you're trying to get to. They can show you how to get to where they get to. And not only that, they also do it to themselves, right? So they actually lead by example. And what you do is this, you ask them for their time. You shoot them a text, send them an email, give them a call. You go through the literature with them. You go through the book with them. You share your personal experience with them. It's not therapy. So unless your sponsor happens to be a therapist, it's not therapy. And even in that case, they shouldn't be doing therapy with you. But it's support. You get out what's inside your mind into another human being. You do the work. You read the literature, you go to the meeting. So the law of modeling teaches, and by the way, this isn't just in recovery. If I want to eat a certain way, I go find people that eat that way and I model what they do. If I want to exercise a certain way, I'll do that. If I want to go to school a certain way, I do that. So the law of modeling is something that's not for the recovery process unique to it, but it's something you need. The last one is the law of contribution, okay? So all of you who wrote things on the side here right now, you contributed to this process. Law of contribution means if you've received something in life, make sure you give it back. Give it back to someone, give it back somewhere, invest your time, right? You have to contribute in life if you're trying to grow. If you just take and take and take and consume and consume and consume, all that's going to happen is you're going to just blow up with a bunch of stuff that's not going to be good for you. So you have to give back. Yep, that's what contribution is, man. The law of giving back, we'll call it. And as you grow yourself, you help other people grow. There's so many of you right here. I mean, some of these moms, dads, clinicians, people that have been talking on the side over here, you are a wealth of knowledge, and you might not think you are, but you're a wealth of knowledge to the mom, the dad, the husband, the wife, the spouse that has just gotten out of the car accident, which is addiction. They don't know which way is north. They're getting out and they feel like they just got hit by a truck. And you tell them, hey, I've been there. I can understand how you feel. This is what I did on a daily basis to get out from where I was. And I don't feel that way anymore. There's so many of you that don't feel like the way you did when you first started the addiction process. And that right there, that feeling that you only know what that is, if you just give a little bit of that to somebody else, you've given them the world, man. You've given them gold, treasure. You've given them something priceless. You've given them something that they want and they don't even know they want it. How about that? They need and they don't even know they need it. You can give it to them that easily. So that was the last one right there. And there's a Winston Churchill quote that says, we make a living by what we get and we make a life by what we give. So those were the laws that we talked about, the 10 laws of invaluable laws of growth adapted from the 15 invaluable laws of growth by John Maxwell, all applied for the recovery process. The only thing I ask that you do today, I think to pay me back, I guess, would be on the comment side of this, maybe just write your takeaway, write what you got out of this, which one of the laws were helpful for you, or just introduce yourself, or just say where you're from even, just create a little dialogue there. I'll go back and respond to all of them later. I'm headed to Buckeye Recovery Network right now. We have a celebration of sobriety. We do it every 8 weeks or so. Because of the pandemic, we've kind of we've had to adjust it. But going over there right now, we have 15 human beings taking birthdays. 15. And what does that mean? They're going to be walking up there taking either 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, all the way up to 16, 17 years of sobriety. And all of them started their process with Buckeye Recovery Network. So there are alumni, and some of them are staff members. So that's where I'm headed right now. I couldn't be more happy to go there. I love and appreciate all of you, and I look forward to seeing you soon here next week. Feel free to share this with whoever you want. We had a new person on. I hope this was valuable for you. Invite some of your friends, and let's see what we can do with this. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday, everyone. Bye-bye.